Hello, this lesson is from one of our courses over at Print That Thing, where we help people learn 3D print design. If you haven't already, you can get the free startup file to hack Blender for your 3D printer at ptt.live. Let's get to designing. In this lesson, I want to teach you about the 3D cursor. And the 3D cursor you can just turn on in your Tools panel just by hitting T and clicking on this little circle with a plus in it. And that will let you manipulate this little widget here. It's kind of hard to see, but it's this guy right here in the middle. Right now, it's just set at default 000, but you can move this anywhere you want. So an example of this is, say we wanted to add like a hat or some kind of cube on top of Suzanne's head. What we could do is make sure you have your tool selected, and then click on the top of Suzanne's head, maybe even right here at the top. And notice it's actually kind of popped or magnetized to the surface of Suzanne. If it's not doing that for you, make sure up here at the top you have Surface Project checked. And that means it's going to try and project that 3D cursor onto, whatever geometry that's in your scene. If you can't see that up here, you can also do it under Tool or right up here. So different ways to find it. But what's cool about this is once you've selected maybe the top of Suzanne's head, or you can really click anywhere, now you can do Add, Mesh, and let's say a cone. Notice that the cone has appeared in the center of Suzanne's head. So we can even, increase the size of that. Anything you wanted to do, make it smaller. You could bring up the Z axis. So maybe it's just right there on the top of her head. And there you go. So it's an easy way to place things exactly where you want. Another thing that's really helpful is sometimes you want to change the origin of one of your designs. So notice there's like this little orange dot in the middle of this cone, and that is the origin point of that cone. And if I try and click on Suzanne, notice it's just moving the 3D cursor, and that's because we have the 3D cursor tool turned on. So you can either hit W on your keyboard, and that will switch to your selection tool, or you could just click on your selection tool. And notice if I click on Suzanne, the origin point is down here. This is Suzanne's origin point, this tiny little orange dot. So if we were to rotate, it's actually rotating around that origin point. But what if we wanted to rotate around her chin or, somewhere else? A way you can do that is using the 3D cursor to move this origin point. And I'm going to show you real quick how to do that. And before we move, you can always reset your 3D cursor if it gets kind of lost or, just can't find it or just not where you want it. You can always go to View and 3D cursor. You could just click on that and hit 0. Or what I do is just type in Shift S, and you get this nice little pie menu just with the Shift S, and you can put the cursor in lots of different places. So you could always do cursor to world origin, and notice that it snaps right back to where it was in the beginning. So now you know how to manipulate your 3D cursor. You also know how to reset it and how to project it onto your surface. Now what I want to show you is how to change the origin of your model with your 3D cursor as a tool. So to do that, make sure you have your Suzanne layer selected. I'm going to hit W on the keyboard to go to my tools. Make sure you have her selected, and then hit Tab to go into edit mode. And so what we can do now is just click on any one of these points. I'm going to do this one kind of right there in the center of her chin. And what I want to do is move this little origin point that's in the center of her head over here. So to do that, we're going to take our 3D cursor, and we could just click right there on it. But if we want to be very exact, what we can do is Shift S again and say Cursor to Selected. And since we have that one point selected, it's actually going to snap right to that. So notice it's perfectly on that little point there. I can even hit period on my numpad, and you can see we've got it right there. So now what we've done is said, hey, this is where we want our origin to move to. Notice it's still right here. So to finalize that, just switch back over to object mode. And then under object, we're going to do some magic here. So keep an eye on this orange point and then, where we want it to go. And so we go object, set origin to 3D cursor. Hey, and there you go. So notice that the origin has moved from the center of Suzanne's head down to her chin. We'll zoom in here so you can see. Now what we can do is if we hit R, notice we're rotating around that point. So this can come in really handy if you're wanting to be a little bit more exact on some of your, transformations or rotations or scaling, or if you want to add geometry to specific points of your model. So let's go ahead and jump into the next lesson. To learn more about 3D print design, visit ptt.live.